Man, Twitch keeps covering my screen and just crap I don't care about. I don't need the stream summary. I don't need the rooms tag. Just let me see what I'm doing, please. But at least it knows I'm streaming. So let's go ahead and tell the world. Huh. That's strange. TweetDeck apparently no longer lets you tweet from both accounts. Now you have to pick one or the other. That's, annoying. Streaming, game dev, gonna build spaceships. Paste. And again, over here. Alright, I am feeling super tired today, not sure why, but I hope I will be able to do some stuff anyway. Anyhow, what we've got now is the heart of a new version of the player ship. That's not it. In fact, that's nothing. Goodbye. Here's the player ship. But the problem with this current player ship is that it doesn't have any of the upgrades. I think it has like one or two, just accidentally, but it doesn't have the core upgrades that the previous version of the ship had. So what we're going to focus on today is building an upgrade chain for our ship. The alternative is to start to think about how to make this load in. You know what? I can't decide which I'd prefer to do. Randomized levels versus an upgrade. Let's go ahead and start on randomized levels. That's interesting, right? Let's go ahead and try randomized levels on for size. So there are a couple of things that we're going to need for randomized levels, and so we're going to go ahead and create those in a new directory, which we'll call level building. So we're going to need a level module. And the level module is simply going to be a chunk of level that can be put into the game world. I should tell the world that I lied. I lied. I'm actually streaming level design stuff. Okay, actually streaming level design randomization. There we go. All right. So the level module is simply a chunk of level. Should have an input and an output, like that. We're going to want to have a public, well, we don't know what it is yet, so let's go ahead and create an outlet, a level module outlet. Come on, thank you. And just pop this open. This is going to be something which we can place in the universe, and it will tell us where we are, so what the flow of the level is. The complexity here is that the level may have several different flow paths, which I can deal with later. For now, we'll just leave it like this. The level module output has a public bool, outlet rather, has a public bool in or out, you know, which direction it's going. We're going to call this intake equals true. I'll put a tooltip. True for players enter here, false for players leave here. And we're going to want to have a public void on draw gizmos where we doodle in the direction it's pointing. So for that, we're just going to go ahead and say gizmos.color equals color.blue. And we're going to want to draw a line going in the correct direction. We could draw just a flat out line, but I actually want to draw it with a strong amount of directionality. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a series of boxes instead. So to do that, we'll just go ahead and draw a box. Gizmos dot, we don't want a wire box, we want an actual box. So gizmos dot draw cube, and we're going to transform dot position it, and then the size will be our size. But you know what? We actually want to do the gizmos world transform thing. So let's close all of the other files here. And what we're going to want to do is matrix 4x4 existing equals gizmos dot current. Is it current transform? Matrix. There it is. And then we say gizmos.matrix equals transform dot world to local matrix or local to world. I think it's world to local. If not, we'll know real soon here. And then at the end we say gizmos.matrix equals existing. But in the middle, we're going to go ahead and draw ourselves a cube. So gizmos.drawCube, and then just make it 0. And then we're going to make it a size, and the size is going to be z-based. So it's going to be new vector 3, 25, 25, 1, or 5. There we are. And then we're going to go ahead and draw a second cube, which is the ray that comes out of this first cube. So we're going to go ahead and call this vector 3.forward times 10, and then we're going to make this 10, 10, and 25, something like that. And that should be enough for us to see where the inlet and outlet are. Now, if we take a look, we're going to need to create the inlet and outlet as objects. So let's go ahead and create a level module. We'll call this one a basic input module. And we'll put inside of this a new empty prefab. We're going to want this to be at 0, 0, 0 for now. And this empty prefab has a level module outlet attached. If we go on over to it, here it is. You can see that it's got this little blue thingy. This blue is extremely blue. So what I think I'm going to do is, can I make this slightly transparent? Let's go ahead and see if I can make it transparent. New color. Yeah, so it has a transparency value. I don't know whether or not it's going to work out, but we'll go ahead and make it 0.5f, 0.8f, 1f, and then 0.3f, and see whether or not that works. Come on. Yeah, that's better. It's not a very large or visible thing in comparison to the size of the level itself. So we're going to go ahead and bump all of the scales up considerably. $25, $25, and $200. Grind, grind, grind. Better. That's more along the lines of the size that I'd like. So the debris guides are way over here, as you can see. We're actually going to move the basic input module, the whole thing, over so that it fits into the basic debris guides. But as you can see, the highlighting vanished. And that's a clear indication, there it is over there, that I just used the wrong matrix. So we're going to want to use... zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to use local to world, and someday I'll remember which matrix is which. I don't know why I can never remember that. And boom, there it is. So the input for this is just over here and then down. This is the input, right? Because it's clearly going that direction. What we're going to do is we're going to offset it a little bit, so that it feels a little bit more natural. The player coming in, they'll come in kind of at this angle. You know, I'm still not sure that that's big enough. I'm going to go ahead and make it even bigger. Because it's for use when designing the level, so... it has to be big enough to make sense. Move it forward. No, it's too... there we are. Grind, 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 and... well, now that I can see it in the context of the level, it's not really noticeable enough. So we're going to go ahead and bounce or bump this up to more like 0.8. Because I need to be able to see it right away. That's better. And then I can just adjust it like so. And what will happen is this will spawn in front of the player in such a way that that direction is correct. And let's go ahead and name this input or inlet. And we'll name this outlet. And I'm going to rename the intake to outlet. There we go. So with that in mind, this is going to be the outlet, and this is going to be the inlet. And we'll go ahead and just change the color slightly depending on whether or not it's an inlet or an outlet. If outlet, else the same thing. Yay! But what we'll do is if it's an outlet, we'll make it pink. So the outlet is currently superimposed in the exact same spot, which is why we're getting that weird color. And this is not really a very good color for us. Let's change this so that it is yellowish. The problem is that a lot of this debris actually has yellow components to it, and the result is a fairly messy situation. I guess red is a better option after all. Just trying to figure out the easiest way to code this up, right? Because I want to be able to easily see what the heck I'm doing. So the idea here is that this outlet is going to be in a spot that's at the edge of the map. So it doesn't really have to be super obvious when it's in the middle, but it does have to be super obvious when it's at the end. There we are, and there's the outlet. So the idea here is that this piece of the level kind of pushes the player to come in from this side. And then they get driven down the shaft over here and come out the far side. And what I'll do is I will build a level chain based on that exact same premise. But I do have to put all of the stuff that's here into our basic inlet module. So if we actually hide this, I think that's everything. Okay, except for, what is that? Oh, okay, let's drop that in there too. Boom. All right, so now we've got a level chunk. There it is. And we're going to go ahead and save that as a prefab. We're going to need a new prefab directory for level chunks. And we'll call this a basic routing module. A linear routing module. Drop that in. It's not quite ready yet though, is it? Because I forgot to put in, well, I guess I can save it. But I forgot to put in a the actual level module part. So I built it and then I didn't put it in. There we go. So the level module currently doesn't have any sort of code in it. Let's fix that. Public level module outlet inlet outlet. And then we'll drop that into our, there we are, good. So inlet, what? Oh, okay, outlet. There we go. So what we'll end up doing is arranging it so that these end up perfectly snapping to each other. So we'll have, in this case, an endless chain of these just going click, 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 click. Which we're not going to worry about at the moment because it's super straightforward to do that. I just wanted to make sure I understood exactly when it happens. Now here are some HAB modules. These are just prefabs that never get instantiated into the game world, and they're just taking up space, so we'll delete them. But on the other hand, this broken, that's the gimbal arm, this broken ship over here, what's this gimbal arm doing? Okay. So this broken ship is the thing which pops into existence with a load delayer. And if we want to, we can take a look at what it looks like. It looks like this. We're going to have it turned on so that we can see what the heck we're doing. But this is another level module, and just as before, we're going to want to have an input and an output. So let's just grab these, duplicate them, and move them in. Oop. And obviously, we're just going to move them over into our new area, more or less. And we'll just maneuver them until they are pointed in the right direction, because basically we would like the player to smash into these debris. And to do that, we'll just keep moving this until it points straight into the debris area, like so. Now we have an option. We can come on straight, or we can come down from above a little bit. I think coming down from above a little bit is best. We're also going to bring it nice and close so that the player is surprised by how quickly they reach it. Now, as for the output, this is going to be an interesting idea because there's a lot of different ways we can pull this off. One way is we could pipe it straight out the backside, because all of these elements that you can see here are actually they get destroyed and torn up in various random ways. So the question is, do we want this? Is this going to be what we want? Or these are randomized pieces of damage, so maybe it makes more sense to have something like this, where it's off kilter, so they come in and then they move across the ship like this. This will allow the ship to remain in the body of the ship to remain in the character's eye, the player's eye. So maybe that's a good way to do it. Also, we don't want the inputs and outputs to be too matched. So having this creates a nice sweep. But we obviously need to change this broken ship to have a level module in it with the correct inlet and outlet. And as before, we're going to want to hide all of this stuff, because otherwise it is pretty slow. It loads in all at once and it really bogs everything down. At least that's what I recall. Maybe I'm misremembering. We're going to rename this Broken Ship One Side Residential, because that's what it is. It's just one edge of the ship that is being dealt with. So we just drop this down in here. Now what we're going to need is a method to control the levels. So what we're going to need to do is create a new empty object, put it at 0, 0, 0, and we'll call this the level randomizer, or the level builder, perhaps. And that's going to require a new script, because we don't have a script for it. So that's not a big deal. We'll just go down into the level building and create a level builder. Pop that open. There it is. And the level builder's primary feature is it has a list of level modules. No, I don't have to do that part. So with this list of modules, we are going to be able to build the level randomly. So we're going to need to have a whole bunch of features. We'll just make it for a moment very easy to use. So modules, module counter, level size. We'll call it level size. Level size equals 4, like so. And what we're going to want to do is when we start, we'll spawn in one chunk of the level, and we'll probably put in some more complicated zoning later on. But basically, we're going to want to slowly link in each part after the previous one. We don't want to do it every frame or all in one frame, because then we'll have a frame rate drop, and that'll be really bad, especially if we are in a large zone. So what I think the best way to do would be to spawn in one, and when the player gets close to any of the level module outlets, we spawn in the next one if it is required. So for that, what we're going to need to do is create a boolean here. Public bool needs link. How do you want to call it? Instantiated second part. Part of chained, yeah. And we'll just go ahead and put in a tooltip. Set to true when follow-up module is created. And then we're also going to have a public bool player nearby. Is player nearby, something like this. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to check and see whether the player is near either the inlet or the outlet. So vector3 pp equals universe.playership.transform.position. And then we say if inlet.transform.position minus pp.magnitude is less than 1,000, return true. Do the same with outlet. And you might think that 1,000 is a tremendously huge distance, but it's really not. So there we are. That's very straightforward, right? And so we're going to need over here in the level, let's go ahead and make this a list. And then we'll also create a an active modules. So there we are. So for start, we'll just go ahead and create one active module. So we'll go ahead and say level module lm equals level module dot instantiate modules. And then we'll pick a random one. So random dot range 0 modules dot count. But we'll want to instantiate it inside of us. And we don't care about the position or rotation or anything like that. So like that. But we're going to want to set this up so that it locks to a given location. That's, I think, is a good purpose for the level. The level module itself should know how to do that. So public bool lock, and then we'll give it array. And what we'll do is we will just maneuver ourselves so that we're aligned with that ray. So we will go ahead and say vector3 delta equals inlet dot local position. I guess we'll want to do inlet dot transform dot position minus transform dot position, because it's possible that the inlet could be a child of a child, in which case local position wouldn't be correct. Also, there may also be scaling involved, in which case local position wouldn't be correct. So we'll use that. That'll be like our absolute offset. So our position, so we'll say transform.position equals ray.origin plus delta or minus delta. I can't remember which. We'll see in a minute here. And then we're also going to want to align our rotation. And we can do that by calculating out the quaternion. Just got to make sure that these, when they spawn in, they don't have any rotation. But I think we've already done that. But we should probably save them without rotation. Okay, so there's actually some rotation built into this. Just clear that out. Quaternion Q equals quaternion dot. Okay, so what we need to do is figure out the difference between two directions, and here they are, from 2, vector 3, and vector 3. So with that in mind, we'll just pass it in the vector 3 dot forward, or no, sorry, inlet dot transform dot forward, and then the ray dot direction. And we'll set that up as our rotation. So rotation transform dot rotation equals Q. Times equals Q would probably be fine, right? I think that's what I want to do. And that should set us up to be correctly locked onto whatever ray we've created. So with that in mind, let's go back into our level builder. And when we build a level, we're going to want to lock it into our ship position. So universe.playership.transform.position, and it's to be a ray, right? So ray, new ray, there's the origin, and then the direction is just going to be vector 3 dot forward. Something like that's fine. We can introduce some noise later if we would like, but let's go ahead and see whether or not this works. We're going to want to hide both of these, just turn them off. Those are the ones that aren't involved. So here we have a situation where lock, why did I make this? This is a void. So there we are. And we're going to need to actually add the level builder script here and drop in those level chunks that we created. Oh, and I forgot, we also need to make it so that that becomes one of our active modules. Erdroy doesn't like the transform stuff going on here. Yeah, I mean, I can figure out easier ways to, more efficient ways to do it, but this is not something that needs to be optimized. That's absolutely not even vaguely a something that gets called like 1,000 times a frame or anything like that. It gets called once at level load, so not too concerned. But let's go ahead and see how this looks. No cameras. You know, I deleted the gimbal arm again. I have been... I'm an idiot. Okay, so I deleted the gimbal arm again because I thought it was... I named it badly. So let's go ahead and go find the gimbal arm in another... there's got to be one in one of these other areas here. Gimbal arm. Copy that. And we'll bring it back around into the garden where we were. Gimbal arm. So we'll just have to reassign this ship control stuff. So call cockpit and call rigid body. No, that wasn't it. Try that again. And we'll name this. This is the camera. There we are. That should help. It's the third time I've deleted the gimbal arm thinking it was an errant spaceship part. So what we've got is me forgetting to turn... No, that was it. That was correct. Okay, let's try that one more time. So this looks correct because it's not aligned correctly. It's not in the right spot. This blue thing should be directly on top of me. But it's pointed the right way. See? So the position is wrong, which is kind of odd. Oh, I already know why. This is a minus, not a plus. Just me being silly. Better. So, now if we take a look, this is completely wrong. Why is this so wrong? Here's the broken ship. The inlet is correctly set up, but for some reason it's unrotated and in a really dumb position. So let's go ahead and take a look here. When we create it, we instantiate it and we say put it inside of us and then don't keep the world space. Pass true when assigning a parent object to maintain the world space instead of pass false to set the object's position relative to its new parent. So they both keep the internal position. There's no reset. So I think if I were to change it so they weren't offset at all, it would probably work. But that said, it was still pointed the wrong way. Okay, that looks promising. Yeah, so you can see how this is set up specifically on top of the player. Perfect. But the idea being that the player will get sucked in. Now, we actually don't want to start it this close. We'll start the player off with a little bit of range. And then they'll approach it and, volunteer to get sucked in. Yoop. But I'm not at all sure that the ship is going to work. No, it didn't work. So there's something wrong with this ship. It's not aligning. It's not even coming close to aligning. It is completely wrong. Why is this so wrong? So this is the ship, and here's the inlet. Yeah, so this is the inlet. So why this inlet is clearly not lined up with the player's ship. I mean, it's not even wrong in a way that makes sense. Why is this so wrong? Let's make it the dominant part, because I am very confused, and I'm going to have to do this a lot of times to figure it out. So we're just not at all aligned. See, we're at 0, 0, 0 with no rotation or anything. So the align isn't even being called. This doesn't seem to be doing anything. And I think I know why. I think it's because of the load delayer here. So if we take a look at the load delayer, this just turns things on. It shouldn't change. Well, if I were to go into the broken ship one side residential and turn these two things on, and save that, would that help? Maybe it could be that they're not on, so they're not being correctly calculated. Nope, that wasn't it. Wait, where the heck is it now? Well, that's certainly different. Let's go ahead and turn off the load delayer and just turn everything on. Why is everything off? Oh, I'm just an idiot. I turned it off and I saved it turned off. No wonder it didn't work. Duh. But these need to be changed. So, where are you? Well, you're still completely wrong. In fact, that didn't change a damn thing. What the hell? Debug.log moving name to ray.origin delta and then delta. Let's go ahead and just see whether or not we can get the position right first. And then we'll get the transform to rotate afterwards if the position is right. But I think that there's something screwy going on here. As you can see, it's not even trying to move. It's still stuck at 0, 0, 0, even though it should be moved. Here's the problem, maybe. Oh, the universe's player ship isn't being assigned because that happens in start? Why would that happen in start? Well, it's not that big a deal. We'll pop this open. Take a look. Start. Awake. So the problem was it couldn't find the player ship, and it was just random luck that it was this thing that executed before the player ship instead of after. But here you can see that now it's working. So let's go ahead and bring the Quaternions back online and see whether or not that properly sets us up. It does not. So it's in the right... What? Did we have any errors? Well, the blue is now correctly oriented, but wow, it's in the wrong place. Is it turning? Oh, you know what the problem is? The problem is that the inlet is not at 0, 0, 0. It's way off in the corner here. This thing is actually centered right here, which means that the whole thing is offset rather considerably. And when we set the rotation second, we end up moving the whole thing. So we're going to want to set the rotation first and then move it. And I think that's the only problem that we were having. Yeah, that's better. All right. So what we'll do is we will delete the other one as well, and we'll take the level builder and we will put in the level chunk that we deleted earlier, level routing. And we will have it so that this now does a thing where during update it will build the next level module if it needs to. Level size minus minus. So public level module needs chaining. And what we'll need to do is scan through all of the level modules that we have and see whether or not any of them need to be chained. So for int a equals 0, we can't do a for each because it might get modified. A is less than active modules.count a plus plus. If active modules a.chained, then continue. Done. Otherwise, check. So if active modules a dot is player nearby, return active modules a. Return null. So here in update, we'll go ahead and say level module current equals needs chaining. If not current, then return. Otherwise, we'll want to extend this module, and to do that, we just use this exact same code. But the reason I did it separately is because it is a little bit different. So first off, if level size is less than or equal to 0, return. So here we're going to do the same thing, but it's not going to be the player ship transform. It's going to be the current.transform, like so. And instead of vector3.forward, it's actually not even going to be current.transform. It's going to be current.outlet.transform. And then here it's going to be current.outlet.transform.forward. And that should just work. Now, I may go ahead and extract that and put it into a nice, better function instead of being in the core update loop, but whatever. So, with that in mind, hit play, and we got a little bit of a slowdown, and we spawned all 4 real fast. So, I forgot to set it to chained equals true. So, current.chained equals true. And that's why we got that sudden spam. Also, here, we're going to want to make this plus a random offset. So vector3.forward times 50 plus random.onUnitSphere times times 50. So I'll make this times 250 and make this times 100. There we go. So we've got 2 things spawned in, a linear routing module and a broken ship. That means that this is essentially the exact same level that we started with when we turned on today. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and cruise on through to see the routing, to see the ship. You see how we spawned in another thing? Get that really, really rough load-in period, which is something we're going to have to polish because it's a little bit too rocky. Crash. Okay, so I might have to rearrange the inlet there a little bit. It's a little bit too aggressive. Where am I going? Ooh, more ship. Okay, so it looks like that needs to have its inlet adjusted, but this is also live.emit. So for some reason that caused an error. Live.emit was barfing for some reason. If not live. Oh, God, the camera. It no longer has a clank sound emitter attached to it because I deleted it. Wow, that was dumb. That was so dumb. This main camera used to have clank sound emitters. And the music, I think. I'm going to have to recreate all that shit. So we're going to go ahead and put a clank sound emitter on here and see whether we can reconstruct it. There's our clank sound emitter. And then we'll need the prefab audio source, which I believe is in prefabs already. Generic audio source. And then the sounds pack. This is annoying. I believe there were several sounds packs. But I don't remember them. Anyway, tag 0, tag 1. Okay, so I think that it's really a shame that I'm an idiot. That's not something I ever thought I'd delete, and I didn't really make a backup for it. So we're gonna have to just go ahead and muddle our way through here. Put my headset on so I can hear. That's a very sharp clank, isn't it? What was the sound I was using? Was it the popcorn thunk? I thought I got rid of the popcorn thunk and replaced it with something else. But I know that the sizzle was the other one, so we'll just drop that in there. Did I replace it with that? Was that what I was using instead? Oh, I can't remember. I feel kind of stupid. Well, what we're going to do now is assume that that's okay. We're no longer barfing errors. I can make it different later if I need to. But that doesn't solve the issue of the prefab not being quite right. So let's spawn that prefab back in, which would be our level chunk broken one side residential. And the inlet is just in the wrong spot. So we're going to go ahead and fix it up a little bit. So basically the problem is that when we come in this fast and this hard, we don't end up really getting a good idea of what we're supposed to be doing. So I'm going to soften it so that it doesn't feel quite so forced. There we go. The other thing that's worth doing is having a list of inlets and outlets so that we have a couple of different options. So let's go ahead and just do that right now. And what we'll do is we'll take this broken ship one side residential, and we're going to go ahead and override the inlet and outlet stuff here into a list. So protected level module outlet array outlets, and then public void awake outlets equals get component. Well, we'll not even do it here. We'll do it live. Hold on. Outlets and outlets get if outlets if not outlets or outlets dot length equals 0, then outlets equals get components in children level module outlet true. Return outlets. There we go. And then inlet and outlet, we'll just choose a random inlet or outlet. So for that, we're going to want to have a couple more values here. So protected int inlet index and equals -1, outlet index equals -1. And then up here in inlet and outlet, we're going to make these getters and setters, or just getters, I guess. If inlet index is greater than 0, greater than equal to 0, then return outlets inlet index. Otherwise, we're going to want to say inlet index equals random.range 0 outlets.count.length. It's barfing for some reason. Why is it barfing? I don't see any reason it should barf. Oh. Do you like that? Yeah, okay. You have to treat them a little bit differently when they're inlets and outlets. That's fine though. When they're getters and setters, because there's no semicolon and stuff like that. Whatever. We'll get there. So then what we do is, this is actually not the case, because this is what happens here is, if we have an inlet that this doesn't take into account that half of the inlets are in fact only outlets. So we actually need to create a list of level module outlets. Inlets equals new list, and then we're going to go through for each level module outlet in outlets. If outlet.outlet equals false, then inlets.add outlet. And then here we go ahead and we say level module outlet inlet equals inlets.length, like so. And then we say inlet index equals outlets.index of. Okay, so there's no index of for the arrays, so we've got to go through it manually. For int a equals 0, a is less than outlets.count.length. Oh, we got multiple outlets here. Hold on. No, that should be fine. A++, and then we say if outlets a equals inlet, then inlet index equals a. And break. If inlet index is less than 0, debug.log error, strange error determining a valid index. Return inlet. So I think that that'll work. It's a little bit more obnoxious than I'd like it to be, but this only runs once, so it should be okay. We're just going to copy that and paste it for outlet. And then obviously we're just going to change all this stuff to outlet. It's kind of hacky to do it this way, but I don't care. We're going to leave these named inlets because otherwise we'll have two things named outlet. So hacky. All right, that should do it. So that should allow us to find a random inlet or outlet from our entire set of inlets and outlets. Let's make sure we didn't have any code barf here. Seems fine. And because of that, what we'll do is we can create more inlets and outlets. Now we have to remember that these are going to be assigned randomly. So that means that if we have another inlet that comes in from the other direction like this, it could get assigned this outlet. So one option is to make these inlets and outlets in pairs. And the other option is to simply have inlets that always lead to an outlet. So if we were to do that, for example, we could do this, and you can see that they all go to the same basic outlet, which is not too bad if we want to make sure that the player always has that same feel, right? So here's the ship with 3 different inlets. And then we can have a couple different outlets as well. And we're just creating variants. We could do it a couple of different ways, but this is fine for now. So I'll just create one more. We'll put it up here. And then we'll save that. Now we can create another variant that's got a reversed setup if we'd like. There's no reason that we have to absolutely do it. I saved it and I didn't delete it. So now that you're saved, goodbye. So here we've got two ships, two busted up ships right away. And we've obviously come in on that really sharp outer inlet, but because it gives us plenty of view, we can see where is a good place for us to go. The other problem I've got with this setup is that currently we're not rotating around our inlets and outlets. What we really want to do is have a random rotation, because otherwise it's going to feel very samey. And we also want to make it so that the spawning is a little bit softer. I know how to do that already, though. It's just a matter of turning the ship back into a slow load ship. So we'll go ahead and pull that in here. And what we can do is turn the load delayer back on and turn all of this stuff off. And that should allow it to load in with a nice slow load. But with that in mind, I wanted to make it spin. That's right. So what we're going to do is when we're told to lock, which is here, lock, we're going to want to rotate around our axis. So transform.rotate. And then we're going to want to rotate around the inlet.transform.forward and a random value, random.range, -180, 180, and space.world. But we want to make sure that we actually have that correct. Yeah, that should be fine. The only problem I've got with this is that it's going to be offset. We're not rotating around the location, we're rotating. I need to rotate around that point. Is there still a rotate around call? I was under the impression that it was gone. Rotate around. No, it's not. Okay, so for some reason I was under the impression. Oh, I see. If you don't specify a point, then it's obsolete. Okay, no problem. Inlet.transform.position, inlet.transform.forward, random.range, -180, 180. Like that. All right, so now you can see that we've got random level set up. And when we look at this, we can scan for stuff. Ping. I hope it says ping. I think I've turned off the music by deleting the camera, so I'll have to redo the music, which is obnoxious because I picked a whole bunch of music and then I ended up... I don't know the way through here. I picked a bunch of music and then I ended up not being smart enough to save my choices. I suppose I could go back and watch it again. So I actually don't know what's going on here, and if I don't know what's going on, then obviously the player is not going to know what's going on. So let's back up and see if I can figure out what's going on. That looks like... What the hell is this? So you can clearly see that there is a path, but for some reason I can't see the path. It's supposed to go... Hold on. Is this like just overlapped far too tightly? Okay, so there's where we're supposed to find the inlet, and it goes in here. And it's supposed to come around, but I think what happened is that the other linear routing module is literally on top of it. So if I were to pull this out... No, it's not that tight. So this is the corridor we're supposed to find obvious, and it is not obvious. I think that we'll just adjust the input to be a little bit clearer. So let's drop in this linear routing module and change the input a little bit so that it is pointed more dead down the center, because I was being a little bit clever, but then I realized that the amount of randomness involved here is going to be enough that we don't need to be clever. We just need to be consistent. Audrey Beardsley says, "Whoa, what is that? Are you a game dev? Whoa, it looks ridiculous." Well, thank you. Tubbsy Web says, "Incredibly neat space junk effect. How long ago did you add that in the game?" So that's a long story. Both of your questions are a long story. First off, I am only a hobby game dev. I was in the games industry for a while, but it doesn't pay well, and it's really tiring. Now I'm in solar. Tubbsy Web says, "How long ago did you add the space junk effect in?" Well, the space junk effect has always been a critical part of this game, but I knew how I was going to do it, so I didn't rush to add it in. I added it in on my own time, and I think it might be maybe half a year now. It's actually not as hard as it looks. I've got tutorials on how to do it yourself if you wanted to use the same technique. But the idea of this game is that we're searching for stuff, and you know, you want to find some useful stuff. I've got to fix that drift, that reverse drift. Let's go ahead and fix that reverse drift before I do anything else, because that's still quite annoying. So we look in the call cockpit. This should be our cockpit. There it is. And what we are getting on here is when you start to turn, it tries to accelerate you in the direction you want to go before you've finished turning. And while you think that might be nice, it actually ends up feeling really weird. So what we're going to want to do is reduce the amount of forward velocity by the amount different from our current heading. So how do we want to do that? I think we can just go ahead and, if you look at this quaternion course change, we get this from to rotation, ship.transform, pilotwing.transform. So this is what we need, these two things. And what we're going to do is up here under the intended heading, we're going to reduce the throttle rather considerably. So float throttle reduction equals, and then vector3 ... There we go. And then maybe we'll square that. So throttle reduction times equals throttle reduction. There we go. That should be fine. Should work. And I don't know whether or not Tubbsy Webs is still here or not, but if he is, and he was interested in the space junk effect, you should know that this is physics-enabled space junk that you can melt. So it's not just a pretty face. Yeah, that definitely feels a little bit softer. Less slidey. Let's burn some space junk. Yay! So, I wasn't really paying attention, and I ended up drifting and getting kind of lost in this setup. But let's go grab some stuff, and we'll go ahead and just have some goofing around. I plan to release the next version on Sunday, but I want to finish making the ship a little bit more upgradable. Right now it's still very bare bones. And that's just like an hour or two of work, and I'll do it on Sunday. But for now, let's go and find out what we've got here. Tubbsy Web is still around. Yep. So this is all physics-enabled junk. We can drive into it and bounce off of it and stuff. It looks like it looks like the slow loader is a little bit busted. I'll have to try and figure out how I screwed up the slow loader. But that's fine. It's just a little hiccup until I figure it out. Ah, some spare parts. Shall we go hunting some spare parts? Ooh. We're safe from the military scanner at the moment because we're on the far side of some debris, but once we get into the other ship that's a little bit upstream, we're going to have a problem because that debris isn't quite so hidden away. As you can see, it's pointed into the sun, which means that it's pointed into the military scanner. So if we want to get stuff from here, we have to be very careful, or we'll get zapped. There should be some stuff here. I just don't see any. Really? Is this completely destroyed? Nothing but metal here? Oh, there's a couple. I'll grab that then. So my next thought is I'm thinking about turning off the frontal light, or attaching the frontal light to the tip of the arm. Because right now, when we go to grab something, the arm gets lost in this really bloom haze. You can't really see what the heck's going on. So I think if I attach it to the tip of the arm, it'll work out better. Ready to get zapped? Here it comes. Oh no! Zero. You'll never catch me alive. Which is technically true. Alright. So, what was I trying to do? Attach the light to the tip of the arm. So if we go and we open up the retrieval arm, you can see it's got all these bones. All we really need to do is attach the light to one of these tip bones here, which is fairly simple if we can find the light. It might be inside the cockpit. Yeah. So we've got this spotlight and this spotlight, and I'm going to put both of them on the tip of the arm. Like so. Yeah, the game has only a couple of things that are polished about it. It's still very early on, and the death message is one of those things that's not terribly polished. So there's a spare part. Let's go and see whether our new cameras do the trick. Our new lights. I don't see any light. Well, look at that flicker. I must have a material error. I think that one of the spaceship parts I'm using has an invalid material on it, which is causing some of the rendering glitches that you're seeing. It might very well be this grabber. Yeah, these have default materials on them. That's no good. They can't have default materials. The default material is crap. So we're going to go ahead and put hull materials into them. Where is our hull? There it is. So, and here, bunk. Although these cylinders just need to be replaced, just in general, but whatever, right? That one's already got the correct material. So is that. Okay, so that was probably just the only one that slipped my grasp. Hopefully that'll keep the debris from vibrating anymore. So one of the other options we have here is I can do Superman rings along the inlet and outlet. No, there's still something wrong here. So the question is this the light doing weird stuff, or is this an error in the Okay, so where's the light pointing? Okay, so the light is doing weird stuff. The light is just flailing all around. Really? Why? Why is the light doing that? How is the light doing that? They're pointed in two completely different directions? How? Hold on. First off, they shouldn't be pointed in two directions. Second off, how is this working? They're both attached to the same joint. Neither of them has any sort of strange spotlighty stuff. Oh, well, it could be that they're not actually attached to the arm tip. They're attached to the arm tip, but they're not in the right spot to actually be on the arm's tip. But that doesn't explain how they were pointed in weird directions. Tubbsy Web says, did you write your own shaders? Yeah, I had to. The shader stuff I need isn't easily available even on you know, the plug and play module shaders. I couldn't get them to work there either. So I had to write my own. It's not a huge deal though. They're much easier to write than most people think. But we're still getting this issue where these spotlights are pointed in all sorts of crazy directions. So if we take a look here, this spotlight is now pointed just dead left, and this spotlight is pointed dead up. Oh, this is so weird. Maybe I'll attach them to another bone and try that on for size. Dubsy says that shaders are scary when you're trying to learn. Well, maybe, but I think you'll find that they are not really very scary. It's just that they're kind of... back when you were a kid learning to program, you might have thought that programming was scary because it's full of all these words that you don't understand and that sort of stuff. It's the same situation here. The shaders are simply a whole bunch of magic words and strange concepts, but there's nothing scary about them once you figure out the basics. So they're fun. It's a lot of fun to be like, oh, it's a completely new paradigm. That's great. I love that. In fact, that's one of the big reasons I play video games, is because video games frequently will do that thing where you go, oh, it's a new paradigm. And it ends up working out quite nicely. You know, you get special programming or whatever. Sorry, I got distracted by my own thoughts on something else at the last second there, but the point I was trying to make is that it's fun to be challenged by just a new paradigm. Doesn't mean it's difficult. It just means that it's new. So there's definitely something about the way that the mechanical arm animates that ends up barfing. That is very strange. So here you can see that they're now pointed in just random directions. Look at this. What the hell is going on? The bone isn't animating. But for some reason, the spotlight is spinning like a top. What is spinning this spotlight? Is it something in the cockpit? The cockpit shouldn't care about the lights, right? Oh, it doesn't give a shit about the lights. Is it something about these lights in specific? I might be linking these lights from somewhere else. So let's go ahead and create a new spotlight. And see whether or not these spotlights that have never been used before will work. What the hell? What? I've never seen this before. When they're attached to a bone, they just violently spin. That is really something. Oh, I know why that is. It's because the system thinks they're bones. Oh, see, the armature is actually assuming that those are bones here. So it's actually scanning down and it's finding that the spotlights are bones. And it's being like, oh, well, if they're bones, then I need to be moving them around. And so it's calculating out the best possible results for them. And the best possible results don't make any sense. So what we're going to need to do is... maybe have them have a bone tracking. So let's go ahead and have a small helper script here. There should already be a tracking script, right? Track transform. So we'll drop that in here and in here. We'll nest these inside of each other. There we go. And so this one has a track transform, and we're just going to give it the target of this bone. Maybe this bone here. So... yeah, like that. But I don't remember whether or not this tracks. Okay, so this actually does the exact opposite of what I need. So never mind, I was wrong. Just create a new one, not a big deal. So we're going to go ahead and call this artificial parenting. Wait. Does the armature look up bones even if they're disabled? No. Okay, so I can put the spotlights in here and then disable them like this. I might as well disable you as well. And with them disabled, that'll work fine. And all I have to do is put in an on-enable functionality here. So we'll just drop in an on-enable. So, I might not have created one of them yet. Oh, turn off on start. Actually, the opposite of that. We're just going to go ahead and create a new script, which is called action on start. And this is just going to have a Unity event that we can do whatever we want with. Hello? Hello? Do this thing. Do this thing. .invoke. And then we'll just delete ourselves. Alright, so with that in mind, what we'll do is we'll do a action on start here on our tentacle grabber. And when it starts, we will just turn on the spotlight. There we go. TubsyWeb says, why are you using two lights? Well, I'm using two lights because one is very long and one is very short. See? So I've got the narrow long-range light and the short-range light. And those should make it so that that's, so that works. But we're still getting spinning lights, which implies that the bones themselves are spinning, which I don't really understand. Yeah, you can see that we're spinning. So what's happening here is that when there is no target, for some reason it spins. And I think that this is something that's not going to be an issue when it's not finding a target. But for some reason, if target, move towards target. But if there's not a target, it shouldn't be moving towards the target, right? There's always a target because the target is the thing that the main object, the actual tentacle arm object, is setting up the target here, this one, to be at the location that we're trying to grab, with the result being that this will attempt to lock to the target, and it's going to come close and then recalculate, and come close and then recalculate. So what we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to say that if tip.position minus target.position magnitude is less than 1, then return. We'll just go ahead and say that it's done moving. And if we take a look at the spotlight now, you can see that the spotlight is pointed randomly in different directions. You know what? I think that this is all just a dumb idea. Well, let's go ahead and try this. Try this with the other approach, which is just leaving it as lights. I was trying to do something nice, but clearly it's not going to work because of the way I programmed this tentacle arm. It just flops around like a tentacle, and it just goes everywhere, and that's not going to cut it. So the problem is that the tentacle arm, when it extends, gets lost in the glow of this light. So I'm thinking that what we should do is have this light get turned down when the tentacle arm is extending. So to that extent, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to have a tentacle arm event, which just has a text event. I don't think I even need this. Not text, sorry, a float event. So public float event extended. Yeah, I guess this will work. On extension. And what we'll do down here is we're going to go ahead and this distance, we're going to want to return, so hold on. On extension.invoke 0 or 1, I guess. Whereas down here with this, we're going to want this to be float percent equals something like that, I believe, and then we'll just go ahead and say on extension.invoke percent. And then up here, when it pops up, we can have that event set our lights, the brightness of our lights. Now the brightness of our lights is currently set to 1, so that's perfect. So we don't have to use any multiples or anything. We can just go and drop this in straight, like this, and tell it that the light intensity should match the extension. But this is actually the opposite of what we want, isn't it? So we're going to go ahead and say that this is on retract, and we'll just invert these. Intensity, intensity. There we are. Aubrey Beardsley is saying, what? I'm not sure what he's saying what about, but I just did some pretty hacky nonsense, so maybe he is saying what about that. But the whole idea here is that we want the lights to work, but we don't want the arm to get lost in them. So they should start to turn down when the arm snaps out. Yeah. Well, in the end, it's actually the navigation beacon that causes the most annoyingly bright thing, but that's okay. I'll just go ahead and deal with it at the moment. We'll figure out some way to do it later, I think. Way! Look at all this debris. I should put like a light source or something at this in this tunnel because it's a little bit non-obvious. I'm feeling actually pretty good about this. Now, there are lots of more things that we're going to want to do. For example, we're going to want the levels to have an LOD system. And in fact, that's probably better than the just generic turn off, turn on thing. But I'll have to think about the best way to do that. There's lots of stuff that I have to do here. And it's been an hour and a half, and my voice is starting to get creaky. So I figure this is probably about it. If anybody wants to ask any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will be back on Sunday, same basic time, a little bit earlier. And every Wednesday and Sunday after that. The things I'm going to do on Sunday, I'm going to try and make it so you can upgrade the ship a little bit easier, and I might try and figure out how to make this arm something that you can see a little bit better, because when you can't, I might maybe a sound effect. A sound effect would probably be good, like a clinkety clinkety clink as it extends. That would probably work out pretty great. Neo Dragoon does have a question, so he can of course ask it. And I'll go ahead and take a screenshot of my new level system. First, let me spawn in all 4 levels, though. That's okay, Beardsley. You don't have to worry about forcing yourself to find an interesting question, but from the way that questions get asked, I know that Neo Dragoon might take a while to work it out. Lots and lots of typing to do if you want to get this questions to work. All right, so there is our most recent level. Print screen. I'll go ahead and take this video manager, delete the streaming notice. It's gone. And those of you who, I don't think anybody who watches the stream cares, but just so you're aware, I've been trying to play the new Life is Strange game. It's slow going for me for some reason. So yeah, I might not finish it this month. Made a level randomizer. Needs more parts. And here as well. Made a level randomizer. Needs more parts. Didn't see your message, but I stream twice a week. I'm just a hobbyist, though. All right, so a couple of people who have said some things. Tubbsy Web says, I've only tried the first episode. Yeah, that's where I stopped too, but I want to get through the rest because I covered Life is Strange, the original, in quite a bit of detail, and the new one probably deserves some level of attention. The walk cycles make me laugh at the worst moments, so it's a little bit tough. Neo Dragoon says he wants to have a day and a night system that follows my time update so that they sync. Sure. Life is cringe. Yeah, I'm not going to say the new one is terrible because I haven't played it yet, but the animations are not quite as good. So I'm not sure whether Neo Dragoon actually asked his question yet or whether he's still typing. But he's talking about day and nights where the sun moves with the updates. Presumably he's not having a hard time moving the sun because you can just put the sun on a gimbal arm and rotate the gimbal arm, which is actually what I do with the camera here. I've got this camera. Let me go ahead and pull the camera out so that we can see it a little bit better, right? So if I zoom in on the camera, this is the camera, right? What I've got here is a gimbal arm, and then the camera is attached back here. So that's where the camera starts, and here's the camera is actually mounted. And if I want to spin the camera, I spin this, see? So that's how you rotate a sun if you want to rotate a sun. You just have a directional light, and you attach it to, well, I attach it to a gimbal arm with a directional light, like a pure directional light. You might not need that. You can just rotate the light directly. Yeah. Here's my sun, which never moves. So I was talking about gimbal arms, but that's because I was thinking of point lights. This is what you get with a sun, right? It just automatically lights in whatever direction it's pointing. So you just rotate that with the time of day. It's pretty basic. So presumably he wants to ask something else. But if that was his question, that's how you do it. Rotate it around its local Z or local Y, whatever one works. Yeah, I don't really recommend using like an actual Unity animation for moving your sun around, unless you're doing something, you know, like the sun is rising, cock-a-doodle-doo, whoop. But if you're trying to get a realistic feel, I would just recommend using math. All right, New Dragoon, I'm kind of hanging around waiting for you to finish your question, but I guess he's having a hard time typing it up. So I'll hang around in chat for a little while longer, Neo Dragoon, and you can go ahead and keep typing. Oh, he doesn't know how to get the scale right with his time system. Well, the scale is up to you. I mean, it's something that you decide on the multiple you would like, and you can even change it if you want. But you just do time.delta time times whatever your multiple is. Or you can do time since level load times whatever your multiple is. On the other hand, if you're trying to sync it with your computer time, then you'll have to use system.time instead of Unity's delta time. You can get the raw time from time as well. You can just do time.system time, I think. Anyhow, I'll see you later, everybody. I'll hang out and chat a little bit longer to answer Neo Dragoon's question, and then that's it until Wednesday. Or Sunday. It's Wednesday now, right? Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for stopping by, everybody. See ya.